to Life Support Live, the weekly Star Trek show that explores how Star Trek can help us to boldly go in our own lives to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
I think I've heard that before. In fact, yes, I think it's as one famous starship captain once said that. To which another famous starship captain in another century, actually, also said, no matter where our mission takes us, though, we will try to have a little fun along the way.
Hello, everyone. I am psychologist Dr. Ali Matu.
Hey, and I'm Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek. One of us is a real doctor.
And we'll leave it to you to figure out who that might be. Larry, we are both in sync. We're coming in. Subspace frequencies are at full capacities. Things are. I might be speaking too soon, but
don't knock Formica too hard there. No, it's happening. You know what? You know why?
Why?
I just realized why. Because we're both wearing T-shirts.
Oh, we finally have the T-shirt algorithm in sync.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I think the subspace compression T-shirt coil or whatever is serving us well.
Well, I've been replicating a lot, and I thought I've been replicating a lot of ice cubes and a lot of T-shirts. I think I'm gonna get in trouble.
Replicating things. Okay, good. I was gonna say, I really don't care about your private life, but okay.
Oh man, I know, Scott. My wall is still bare. This shows you how long it's taking.
Bare wall.
It's taking to unpack here. Yes, and Libby is correct. The glowing light behind me is the EMH. It definitely is. It's a very early version. Larry, what is I was gonna say, what are we doing? But I'm also curious about your T-shirt. Can you tell us about?
This is. Let me see. You caught me with just a little bit of skinny cow left.
Better than a lot, I guess.
I'll say it's better than popcorn for a watch-along. No, I finally got a store open. Last week when we had a Zoom. One thing I want to thank Jared, one of our moderators, for hosting a Zoom last week when we didn't have a show. There was for everybody who didn't realize this, it was kind of last minute, but it was a lot of fun. There were about 8 or 10 of the regular lifers there, and I jumped into the end of it. But so thank you, Jared, for having a Zoom meeting in lieu of a full episode. But I noticed a couple had. Now I'm trying to remember who all did. A couple had Life Support Live T-shirts. We've had a store open for a while, and there's a few more things up there now. But part of the bigger store of Trekland is we just opened. This is a Trek Well shirt. Some of you may have heard me say that before. And there's several things stuck. Anyway, I've got several shirts. One of them is like a lot of my hashtags all on one thing together. So you could really bamboozle people at a convention. Like, what is that? And who? What is that? But we have like Life Support. I mean, my Trek Files, my other podcast. Wow. And then it's TeePublic, so you can get, we have our beakers. You can get, mugs and stickers and all kinds of things, tote bags and things.
Larry, but you.
So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I've been meaning to do this for years, and we finally have it.
I'm excited. I'm also concerned, as Jared mentions here. You're not wearing a pin.
Oh well, I didn't see. Here's the thing. I didn't want to mess up my brand new. Thank you, Jared, for noticing.
Nothing.
I didn't want to poke a hole in my brand new T-shirt, but okay, just for the. I started to say the sanity, so I won't say that because that's so laymanish. Just for the comfort zone here of everybody, I'll put on a Portal 47 pin.
There we go. There you go, Jared.
Okay.
There you go.
Now
Jared.
watch my signal will zits up now. Okay.
Larry, what are we for people who are here for the first time? Which thank you for bearing with us.
There actually is a plan here.
Yeah. What is Life Support Live?
Well, Life Support Live is a fun place every week. This was born of the pandemic. It was born of a canceled con panel. We were supposed to do WonderCon a year ago, but thankfully it was one of those miracles of a dark time. No, we started this over a year ago to boldly go in uncertain times, and we were talking. And as that original panel was going to be, it was a mashup of everything Trek in the themes of mental health and just, daily living, healthier daily living. So one doctor provides the deep dive into Star Trek and one doctor provides the deep dive into Well, they say healthier living. I've yet to see it. No, I'm kidding. Actually, it's very helpful, and along the way we've picked up this great audience. If you're new to Life Sport Live, our lifers are in the chat right now, and a standard show, a regular show, would be us having a theme, um, and then looking at Star Trek examples of it in the mission. I've forgotten our cute little names for everything.
We got the briefing room. We got the
Thank you.
counselor's log.
It's when we geek out with Trek. Yes,
I was about to say the Z factor, but it's the K. The K.
Don't give us a pop quiz on our own show. We could have it.
K3. Yeah. We have a K3, not K1, not K2, but 3 times K. K3.
It's original series canon. What can I say?
And then we have our away mission. But today's a special show.
Yes.
Today is a show that was born.
It's a show where we have a strong signal all the way through.
Yes, yeah, which is very special.
For Micah, okay.
Today we're doing something different that we like to do every once in a while, which is a watch along. And this is when we select one episode that we think has a pretty strong theme related to the kind of stuff we talk about, which is about how to boldly go in your own lives and to better ourselves, right? And we watch the episode together. We talk about it. It's a little Mystery Science Theater 3000-esque. And then we kind of have an open forum discussion about the themes that came out of that show. Mm-hmm. And this week's episode is really coming out of like a one or two throwaway lines we had in our last live episode.
I thought they were all throwaway lines, but okay.
There's some gems here and there. It takes a little while to mine that dilithium.
Diamond in the rough, yeah.
Yeah.
Dilithium in the rough.
Dilithium in the rough. It's combustible stuff, Larry. You got to be careful. You might destroy the ability to warp speed.
Watch your lattice. Yes.
Yeah. So today we're doing an episode of Lower Decks, which is very exciting because we've never done a Lower Decks watch along, and we're doing probably, I don't know if this is your
and part of that's because most of the world couldn't watch Lower Decks.
Yeah. We stayed away from doing a watch along for Lower Decks before because it wasn't available everywhere, but now it is. And so this is my favorite episode. I don't know if it's your favorite episode of Lower Decks, Larry, but it's I love this episode, and I haven't seen it since it's aired. Episode 9, Crisis Point of Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 9. Crisis Point. That's very
my
good.
Crisis Point.
It's a great Crisis Point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I felt like you were a badmiral pointing at me.
Well, Star Trek is thankfully evolving with pendulum swings. We've gone from badmirals to dadmirals now with Admiral Vance. So, which I see you're almost cosplaying there, which is great.
Oh, yeah. I've got my
Your Federation logo, your Federation symbol is not totally canon for the 32nd century, but
I would love to get a 32nd century Federation logo. I liked the logo. I like what they did. It did seem a little bit more sleek, even though it had less people in the club.
It's a more exclusive club, yeah. But seriously, we're going to watch Crisis Point. So as we do with all our watch-alongs, it's BYOM. Mm-hmm. It's bring your own media. So, that way we don't get into wacky tangles.
So the doctors don't get sued by Paramount. Paramount, Viacom. What are they called now? Viacom, Paramount?
CBS.
Guys, Viacom?
Yeah. Guys with the eye.
A mountain of content.
Peak entertainment. So anyway, hopefully you have your, like I do right here, you have your Crisis Point queued up. Now, what was this? The issue arose. Thank you, Zahir. No, thank you. The issue arose about commercials, and we forgot about it because we've never done a modern show that wasn't just a Netflix or Prime show.
Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed right now is so I'm watching on Paramount Plus in the United States. That's a place to go.
No. Wait till y'all start together at the same time.
Yeah. So so if you're watching on Paramount Plus, it didn't do this on my TV. I watched a few episodes of Lower Decks this week to kind of get ready for this. It didn't play any ads before on the TV, but here on my computer it did. So it played a 30-second ad for The Stand, I think, and then it played like a 5-second ad for Paramount Plus, which, like, don't give me that ad. I'm already paying for your service. But anyways, Zahir mentioned that there are multiple versions of Paramount Plus that you can subscribe to, and one version is more ad supported. So
That'd be like Paramount Plus Plus.
or Paramount Plus minus, depending on your perspective. So I think there might be an ad supported version. We don't have Larry. You and I don't think have the ad supported version. So if there is an ad break, I apologize, but we have like no way of knowing when that happens and also how to pause for it. So we apologize for that. Internationally, Larry, do you know where it's available? Just in case anyone doesn't know and wants to watch along.
I'm fuzzy about. I mean, I would think here. I see Rebecca's in the chat. Some of the folks from across I see Dan's.
I shouldn't say international. I should say global, not in the U.S.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, international is still international among nations.
If you are among nations that are not United States.
Global. No. There's nothing now. Saying foreign would be.
That would be bad.
That the point of view where you are, but anyway, you can have foreigners in Bangladesh. But okay. I'm not sure, but I'm going to say I know we have enough Brits and Joymans and things in the chat.
Christoph says Amazon Prime starts with an ad too. So if you are watching on something else, just get it queued up to 0001. Just get it queued up to the very beginning, which is the very beginning of this episode. You just see the USS Cerritos just orbiting a planet, just right there. That's it, right there. That's classic shot, very TNG, right there.
Am I there? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll give people a moment. Larry, I was I just want to check in with you before we watch this episode. Have you seen this episode since it aired?
Probably within a week or two. I'm sure I mean, I've seen it since it aired, but like maybe the next day or 3 days later.
Right.
No. I thought about that. I was like, should I watch it before No, I'm not going to watch it for the watch along.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah.
No.
I think I watched it a second time too after. I say it aired. It never aired. It just was available for streaming. Yeah.
Since debut I hate saying dropped. Did I ever say how I hate the word dropped in relation to
No, but please go on a soapbox.
Show?
We haven't had one yet.
Image of an egg, or I get the image of the opening number from Monty Python's Meaning of Life. Anyway, I just think
you're not too into sneaker culture then, because drops in sneaker culture is like a big deal. Like the shoe dropped, like it's available, like it.
Oh
yeah.
No, I'm not.
I'm not either. But I
thought sneaker culture was going to be some like drug thing. But okay, no, I get you.
It's about expensive sneakers that are exclusive.
So tell me, Dr. Ali, are you part of sneaker culture?
No, I'm not. But I've worked with a lot of people who are. I'm cool with the drop.
Are you sneaker culture adjacent?
Adjacent, no? Yes, adjacent.
You have
following
Venn diagram people that okay.
Yes, I'm adjacent. So I watched this episode right after 2 times. I had so much fun with it. I think I watched it again the next day. I haven't seen it since, and I didn't revisit Lower Decks until this week. I really loved the episode right before this one, where they're in a courtroom, and each member of the Lower Decks is being interrogated a little bit. That episode was
The Heart of Truth, or whatever the thing was called.
Yeah, that episode.
I haven't done my comb. You say, have I seen this? I've yet to sit down and do we're gonna do a rewatch one of these weekends, because you can do a season 1 rewatch in 5 hours.
Of Lower Decks, yeah, it'll just breeze.
The
episodes just breeze by.
Especially if you have the non-commercial version of. But I haven't done my go through and comb for every anal detail. Partly because you're inundated the minute it airs. 47 different YouTubers will give you 47,000 Easter eggs per show, which takes all the fun out of it for me. But okay, fine, I'll still do my own way, my own thing. And I haven't done that yet, so things aren't sticking quite as much as they ought to so far. But that's why, I wanted to keep it fresh today.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I still feel Yeah, I haven't done that full.
Ian in the chat, by the way, contributed Desilu International
Yeah,
for.
I saw that.
No, I'm curious in the chat too if we've got any. We have a lot of. I think if you find your way to Life Support Live, you're a fairly open-minded person. But everybody has their opinions, so
Yes.
I'm almost curious. Now we're gonna be all be civil here, but I still think that the great untold story, or it's been told now, of Lower Decks was how so many people were dreading it, or they had no idea they would, or they were worried about animation, they were worried about a comedy in Star Trek, and how I think
The
the story
style
of
of it
yeah,
coming from a creator who was on Rick and Morty, like what is that
yes,
gonna be like?
Rick and
Yeah.
Morty eyes, or they think back to the animated series in the 70s and they think of good old Filmation 70s, which, I mean, think of it in the time, folks. It was an advanced cartoon, but people look at it now with modern eyes and think, oh no, we're going to have this stilted, limited background cartoon. For all those concerns, I think the vast majority of fandom were blown away. I think I've seen so many people say it's kind of like my favorite modern Star Trek, or they say it's kind of my favorite Star Trek ever. I've, I've had people say that. So,
Yeah, it's I
I
over one
sympathize.
of the holiday breaks, Zahir was actually in town and we grabbed coffee and we had a conversation about Lower Decks and I no pun intended, but I think Zahir said it's just not my cup of tea. Um, and I totally get that. There is so much Star Trek out there.
Quick, have some Diet Dr. Pepper.
Right. There is so much Star Trek out there and there's if you want the big summer movie blockbuster tentpole, we have Star Trek 2009. If you want more like fast action paced stuff, you got Star Trek Discovery.
Oh,
If you want,
we got Star Trek 2009.
yeah, there's that. If you want, if you want the serialized storytelling, the darker side of things, you've got Deep Space Nine. Like there are many. If you want much more episodic, you can jump in. Don't really need to know anything that's happening. That's kind of Star Trek Voyager. Like there are very different versions of Star Trek. You wouldn't say TNG.
I was going to say the original series.
Well, yeah, yo, actually,
Oh,
probably
that. Yeah.
more the original series than anything.
And maybe,
Yeah.
and perhaps maybe Strange New World. So
Yeah, and maybe Strange New Worlds. We'll see.
potentially, yes,
Hopefully, we'll see soon.
when it's there.
Yeah, but this is to me what I like about Lower Decks is it just seems to be made for the fans to enjoy Star Trek. Like it, and each episode does give us a little something new, and each episode gives us like a something to kind of poke fun, but not in a I'm laughing at you. It's like we're laughing together.
To me, Lower Decks is the culmination of having nearly 10 years of like Facebook, etc. memes. Star Trek,
Sure.
the Star Trek family online, memeing itself for years and years and years and years. I mean, that's what it is,
Yeah, yeah.
and all the outgrowth out of that. But yeah, and the thing about Lower Decks is I was like wincing, like I didn't get the opening scene of the pilot is she's
Yeah,
drunk.
it doesn't start strong.
It's no, and the first couple are really wobbly, but they find their voice very quickly to the
Yeah.
point that I really felt like it was a really fully formed season once they got rolling. And even if you're like, if it starts off, even when it settles down, you may be thinking of it as a guilty pleasure. But by the last 3, 4, 5 episodes, and they wind up with a bang. That's what I also enjoyed, was that to the point where you're suddenly not just watching it for the Easter eggs and the in jokes,
Yes.
and the jokes, period, but there's actually character development and there's pathos
Yes.
of all the characters, and they're really building a canon, family of characters, and you start caring for them, and you're doing and then the finale is incredible. The
It's
Titan. Spoiler alert. Okay.
it's
Wait, I did that backwards. Yeah. Okay.
it is definitely it definitely does have a
I mean, and this episode today is part of that building chain.
well, yeah, speaking of this episode today, Cairo says, but Rise of Vindicta is a big blockbuster movie, and it definitely does feel like that. We're all going to enjoy that ride together. And Jamal says, I did have a lot of concerns going in. only that it might be a bit too similar to Rick and Morty. That said, it's the most enjoyable Star Trek I've watched since Voyager ended. I like Enterprise, but it wasn't as fun. And I think this is what's going to be so interesting with season 2 of Lower Decks, Larry. They really found their voice in this
Mhm.
show and what the show uniquely can do and is uniquely different from all the other series. And I'm very excited to see how the show is going to develop. I agree with Jamal. This has been one of my most enjoyable ones that I've seen in recent years. It always brings a smile to my face in some way. And Phil says
Oh, I don't know your
the
voice.
animated series came out when they were filming, when they were limiting the cell usage. Warner Brothers' old cartoons used 3,000 cells for 7-minute cartoon footage. At the time, the animated series, the standard seemed to be 1,000 for the whole 25 minutes.
Well,
The animation.
that's theatrical. That's like if you watched Looney Tunes, yes, Bugs Bunny and Daffy, and then you'd watch Hanna-Barbera or Filmation. That was cheaper, and that's how they did animation on TV Saturday morning. Was they had to make it cheaper, and Hanna-Barbera was the breakthrough company that went, look, we can spin one background around a million times and have one character doing the same thing over and over. So yeah, I mean it's a revelation when you think of it that way, but that's basically how TV animation was able to happen on that economic scale. Because full-blown theatrical, which looked good on a big screen, classic Warner Brothers, the clip rate, the frame rate was a lot bigger. And when
Yeah.
you're a little kid, you don't notice those things. You just notice them later on.
Right.
But,
And they
but
didn't have
all that away now.
the technology and the money just wasn't there to
Mhm.
do a quality animated series with the budget that they had. And also, how many voices did James Doohan do? Like he did like most of the characters on that show, which is amazing. I don't know if most people realize that. This
The
is
male characters, and Majel did the other ones.
yeah, folks.
Yeah.
We had amazing voice talent on that show in the form of James Doohan and Michelle
James Doohan and James Doohan.
James Doohan. It's amazing, but so folks, I know a lot of folks have differing opinions on Lower Decks. There's going to be a lot of, I think, K3s and a lot of counselor log moments in this episode. The reason why we picked Crisis Point, if you haven't seen it before, you're in for a lot of fun. But this show is probably the most well-engineered show for our show. The whole story is, on the one hand, about Star Trek movies, and on the other hand, it's about therapy and mental health.
Shh! Don't spoil it too much.
It's just like, Larry, this is like, this episode is made for us. So we hope you can enjoy it with a open mind, and I think there's going to be a lot of good topics that come out of this show. I should really take notes. I'm going to take some notes as we're going through, because I think there's going to be a lot of stuff that I want to talk about
That you can't keep up with.
Yeah, and it's a fast. This show moves. The whole episode is just like 20 something minutes, but
The whole series.
yeah,
Yes.
this will go very quickly. So folks, hopefully you have your episode queued up. If you do not have it queued up, this is a very good time to pause and get that ready.
Let those opening commercials, no matter what plan you have, let those opening commercials go by.
Yeah, let them go by. Larry, I am right at the beginning of the show. What we're going to do is we're going to do a countdown and then play. So we're all synced up together. And Larry, I'm going to let you do the countdown. I'll let you.
You're so
do the
nice. You
honors.
always let me do this, Dad.
I want you to, I'll give you the honors.
Give me all. Okay, so we're gonna be watching. If I happen to see a chat, we can comment on it, but we'll save chat for this. Alrighty. Can I get my arrow back? Okay, everybody ready? Everybody ready? Okay. One of these days, I am gonna do this in Klingon one of these days, but okay.
Cock block the bog doc.
Well, kapla on my Klingon counting. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1.
Is that the Is that the car from Star Trek Nemesis, Larry?
Yes.
Yes. What was it
Well,
called?
it's meant to. Well, it was the Argo, but
Right, the Argo.
oh, I paused my thing. Okay.
So this already feels a little the original series in terms of like liberating this alien race.
He At last, the Prime Directive episode.
I mean, I love that they're.
See,
This is. Go ahead.
I need to see if these are actually Antikins from the early episode. The Antikins and the Sealay, the dog people and the snake people. Not snakes, but
Ooh.
no, straight to hell. Oh no, no.
It's 80s.
And at the moment, I was going food metaphors.
I know, we did. All right, so there's a lot there. There's like references to Troy being on the bridge, the counselor of the Star Trek show from the 80s, which I love. We haven't talked about this intro or the theme.
It's so bizarre to be carried away in the stream, but then it comes roaring back. Look, it's the Cerritos. Okay, that's an homage to the the voice cast is awesome.
The cast here is really great. And this is something I wanted to say in our intro to this episode. But I love that we're following a ship that's relatively unimportant. It's not a flagship. It's not the Enterprise. It's not Voyager.
A ship that goes, ooh, Borg and Romulans. I'm out of here.
Yeah. What I did like about the pilot was the idea of second contact, of the more bureaucratic coming in, got to do all the paperwork.
The guys that would never get a show got a show.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, Mike McMahon and his. If you want to know that, if you were worried about the humor of this show, all you had to do was get his original book, Warped, the 8th season of Next Gen.
To marinate you into the officer you ought to be. So. So the idea of motivation here and not wanting to be in therapy, this is very real. This happens all the time. And especially if you're in a military kind of organization, you might not have full control over if this is something that's recommended or required for you, which Starfleet is this peacekeeping armada, scientific/military organization.
Right. Can I just point out that nowhere ever in Star Trek does anybody ever lock the holodeck door? That's all.
Yeah, I know. I'm guessing Quark's holosuites can be locked.
Aren't those private?
Don't brought to me up pissed at this. Okay. This does feel like a very Lower Decker kind of thing to do and very Barclay-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, I really love the sound design in this show. The effects many of them coming from the TNG era. It's really lovely.
I was gonna say, I think wasn't sound design one of the, or some aspect of sound design one of the Emmy nominations they just had for Lower
Oh,
Deck?
really? Yay! Crisis Point.
She's a fast programmer.
So this is Wrath of Khan, the intro sequence, the
Yes.
space field, and it's very James Horner esque.
Doom diddle diddle. His little nautical flourishes of trumpets. Yep.
And the title sequence, it's both the TNG typeface with a little bit of Star Trek 6 credits.
Well, yeah.
And I love that it is the idea programmed by
Little magnetic cohesion on those titles there. Yeah.
Well, we would totally do this. We would totally play out a movie if we could have a holodeck.
And there's a little insurrection for you.
Oh, right.
Yeah, up the air and into the water. Yeah. Hydra scoots. Look at this cannon! Hydra scoots.
Gosh, he's so. I love him and how he is so in Starfleet.
Nixon's summer White House, as well as this California town.
Artistic license. Oh, my favorite. This is my favorite moment, Larry. This is. So this is both the motion picture Arrival. This is also
Yeah.
the End of Voyage Home Arrival. What ship are we gonna get?
Mm-hmm.
The theme is also a little James Horner-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon we're about to see lens flares, which is the JJ era. There's those lens flares. That shot is straight out of Star Trek Beyond.
And then the reaction shots are straight out of Lower Decks. Yeah. Everybody having little mini orgasms. Yeah, watching this. Yeah. Lots
tears.
of work though there. Yeah. Foreground models passing.
Oh.
Yeah, the engineer crying. Yeah. Billis. the travel pod dead on.
Oh man.
She'll always bring you home. Yes.
So many lens flares, Larry, on the bridge.
Here's Star Trek 3 moment right there. Okay.
Warp me. There we go. We got our Star Trek Insurrection warp right there. Or not Insurrection, Star Trek Into Darkness warp.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. This episode is just...
An episode. Seeing the ugly thing. Holocount of 6.
Now, have we seen that Klingon vessel before, Larry?
I don't think so. It's
Free man.
free man.
So stereotype right there, and you can see how much she was uncomfortable with being typecast in this role.
Yes.
The Boimer AI is great.
You've got that was a little Star Trek 3 moment there where Crude shoots his helmsman for
Right.
this.
Is she quoting The Tempest?
Our revels now are ended.
And this also feels a little Star Trek Beyond, that pod that can the caves.
Never been.
I really love his character, Larry. How much he just loves engineering.
Yeah.
So this is something I'll want to talk about when we're done with the episode, Larry. But there's so much here that maps onto role playing games,
Mm-hmm.
real life role playing games. It maps onto video games. It maps onto narrative therapy. There's a lot here that this episode is really doing justice to. She's allergic to I love the engineering room as well, Larry. The warp core, it gives me both Enterprise D and Enterprise E vibes.
Is it your favorite place on this ship? No barrel roll.
These are the kind of moments where you're like, they're such Starfleet officers. They love what they do and they love who they work with. Tell the pot rates. He's so good. He's such a.
This is like Worf's mega can whatever it was from Insurrection.
Oh yeah.
Board shield.
Oh. God.
Now, no matter what you thought about this show as it goes along, this is where it starts to get you're like, really, guys? You've just blown up shacks and you're going to wear his. I mean, it's like.
Well, I think that kind of speaks to.
I mean, it's plan. It's the plan, but it's really realizing how deep off the deep end Mariner's getting.
And there's commentary here on holodecks and what would actually be possible if you can recreate people in holodecks, and what are the sort of the ethics around this. Tendy's sort of reacting to some of this stuff in
Mm-hmm.
addition to how she's been stereotyped. And I think, Larry, this kind of maps onto conversations we have about video game violence.
Yes.
These guys. A little bit more Star Trek Beyond here. Maybe a little Generations.
Little Generations, yeah.
Yeah. Little Generations meets Star Trek Beyond with a dash of Star Trek 3.
So this is all Sideways Generation. Rolling along on the rim. I don't know where I just went to commercial. I don't know where I am with
Oh,
you.
you're on commercial? Oh no.
I was about 5 seconds, 10 seconds behind you, maybe. Not commercial. I mean black spot.
Oh. Okay, yeah.
Now I'm back in the Sparky
Yeah.
engineering. Cerritos.
So just to, for anyone who might be off the timeline, I am at 17:30 seconds. So 17 minutes 30 seconds.
Yeah, you're about 5. I was at 17:25, so I'm just behind.
If people are watching and they're getting stuck with commercials, like Libby, I think you're struggling with that. I would just pause the live stream as you have the commercials, and hopefully you can sync up. We're at about 7:55 now. 17:55.
I mean, as I was watching this, I was wondering what's the end game here. Now that I get it, how deep off the deep end she is, remembering this is really Mariner. It's like, where are they going with this? She's going to kill everybody, and then what?
You know, the episode begins with the therapist saying, there's a lot going on. We need to kind of like deal with your anger a bit. And so here she is kind of blowing off steam.
This is not having an Ambo Jitsu fight is blowing off steam. This is not blowing off steam.
Ambo Jitsu.
This is a sick puppyette here.
The greatest, most challenging, dangerous game in the 24th century. Rickety metal catwalk. So again, Generations reference there. Who's Toby Targ? Oh, her Targ, I guess?
Toby Targ was, I started to say Hannah's, was Molly O'Brien's doll, Toby the Targ.
Right.
Was it Toby the Targ, or was that B'Elanna's? But I'm curious, when you were first watching this, were you expecting a Mariner holo character to come out?
No, I wasn't. Yeah. And I love that she's...
and that is the point.
Right, that's the point. It's reflecting these two very real sides to her. Oh. So I think this is a deeper part of this story, is with each of these characters, it's like looking beyond what's the surface. What's beyond what you actually see, whether they're Orion or a cybernetic person or an officer that might not play by the rules. Captain's allergic to chocolate.
Assassin.
What I forget is if
Where you
Boimer
want to see me
gets the same treatment here. Like he's so eager to please and doesn't have any of his own opinions. Does he get to that deeper level too in this episode? I don't know.
It's rather small-minded.
I also love that we get to see what happens when like a program like that would end. Therapy works. That should be a shirt.
There's your line. Therapy works.
Eating soup.
Having his soup.
Go sit and look at the warp core. Ethical pickle.
Who's tightly wound? Yeah. The whole time. The whole time of what?
Oh, I never noticed the captain has a Californian flag in her.
Oh yeah,
in
the
her
faded
radio.
bear
Yeah,
flag. Yeah.
never noticed that. I mean, no wonder Boimer does what he does in the next episode.
Yeah. Well, both.
Oh, we got a Star Trek 2/Star Trek 3 reference here, and Voyager.
You think so?
And it ends with a Voyager, and it cued to the end of Star Trek 6 with our cast signing off.
So now I need to ask Mike: did the voice actors come in and do this, or are these? Well,
Oh yeah,
these are meant to. Well, they're meant to be actually. They're meant to be takeoffs on, like the T is George's Takei's T.
Oh, what a great episode. Folks, so many wonderful comments here, Larry. Let's get some kind of
Yeah.
quick reactions. Just having rewatched this episode.
Fast action. Yeah.
What
Action reaction.
what are some of your reactions having just watched this?
Oh, it's just I remember thinking when this was over, wow. I mean, I didn't even get I didn't realize it was an avalanche of some of them you couldn't get away from. The Star Trek 2 titles in the pod at the end, but I didn't think to catalog it all the way through as a movie takeoff. Like some, I didn't think about, oh, look, there's something for everybody. I mean, okay, fine, that's good. What really struck me about it was what started off as another innocuous episode and it was just like, oh my God, they're just running her through the ringer. This got really dark, and it gets darker and darker and darker and darker. It was still funny things like, hey, can we just watch the whole Orion Pirates thing? But yeah, there's so much, and it's introspective and layered, but it's on a lower decks time frame, so it's compressed, it's manic.
Yeah, it's fast,
and a lot of that you don't get until you go. It's like everything else, you don't get it till you've gone back 2 or 3 times and watched. But before you know it, first it's a surprise that, like I said, she's fighting herself, that Mariner comes out as a character in the holodeck crew. And then by the time she's done and the ship blows up and she's standing there and she has the line of, hey guys, therapy's great. It's like, wait, did they just do what I think they just did? Because they did. And that's the way I remember thinking. It was like, oh, wow, this really went there. And then after you see, this is the penultimate show, so the finale is the next show of the season. And there are lots of things that happen in the finale, and I won't spoil them. But watching this again, I think about how much is set up. And not so much, well, there's direct line setups, and there's also twists and reverses. Like you were just talking about Boimler being such a kiss ass with this over the top, using the holodeck to find out all these cheats around the captain just to get in her good graces. And aside from the fact that he totally blows it here because he's blown away, but then he's the one that gets away from that. He's the first one that gets off the ship, and for just being himself. Or whatever. It's not like he's really even pulling any punches and cutting corners to do it. Anyway, that's what struck me, was I was in so deep before I realized it and was like, wow, they've gone here, and then they're out of it, and you're kind of left to go, yeah, there was a lot of ridiculous, funny lower decks bits, but look what they just did.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought you were about to say, like, look what
and to have an avianoid counselor is.
I completely agree with you, Larry. This
he's a bird brain.
Yeah. I think this episode also is doing things that only lower decks can do. Like I don't like. Not only is the pacing. It's you
know how expensive holodeck titles are that can knock you in the head? That's a big budget buster. Right
you actually need the version 7 holodeck to be able to do that. Version 5 and 6, they can't get the title sequences just right.
You have to have 7.4K pink ray. You've got to have
with the dual isolinear bioneural gel pack hybrid connection there. It's really critical
on personal emitters.
Yes. So not only is the pacing something that can only happen on lower decks, but the other thing that this show does is this would be very difficult to believe in live action, this kind of story. But with the animated world that exists in lower decks, you can tell this kind of story. Like a lot of our community here was talking about how hilarious. Charlotte said, "I laughed so hard the first time I saw this." The scene, the arrival at Cerritos, seeing the Cerritos scene, and that's just not a moment that would really work in live action. It just wouldn't be funny. But then again, Charlotte says, to be fair though, I laughed at the scene in the motion picture. So maybe it would work in live action. But So not
Well, see,
only
now I would say, Charlotte, did you laugh? Did you see it in 1979, Charlotte, or
mm,
soon after? That's like, if you laughed in 1979, then there's something wrong with you. But if you've laughed years, if you weren't in the context of the moment, because that whole, we've talked about this, right? The
yeah,
whole
yeah,
that's one thing about seeing the movie later. That was totally all about 10 years of, it's like, we won, damn it, we won. The rec deck and that scene were all about this is for, on one hand, it's like, this is for you. Talk about a Valentine to the fans. The
yeah.
last episode of Enterprise was not it,
No,
but that was it.
that was it.
For the
Yeah,
tech, yeah, especially.
yeah, yeah. It's so it is this honoring so much of Star Trek and doing it in a way that only the Lower Decks show can. But the other thing is this is a huge episode for Mariner and for Boimler at the end, and kind of setting up the larger arc of Lower Decks season one. But there's so much here I can dive into and explore in terms of the mental health part of the show that I absolutely love. I love that Mariner found her own way of dealing with her anger in a way that really only works in Star Trek with the holodeck and all of that stuff. And then I love that her mom, the captain, also goes to therapy and is also getting help. And then I love that the
And is
therapist
also just as angry as she is.
yes, yes. And I love that the therapist sort of gets into some of the ethics here. Like, well, I can't tell you about how this works. I can't tell you about what my other patients have told me. There's a lot of aspects here of therapy that this episode is doing a lot. It's I've talked often here on Lower Decks about how variable Star Trek has been in showing therapy well. We've had some great moments. We've had some not so great moments. This was a great one. This was an absolutely great one, and it was
Not a single plexing to be seen. No, no betazoids in the Cerritos, I guess.
no plexing at all. And to highlight some of the comments that were coming up. So there's a lot of those Star Trek moments, like Charlotte said, love the Da Vinci cameo.
By the way, but you can drink whenever we mention plexing. I'm just going to say that, Jared.
that needs to go on the list. So there's that reference for Star Trek Voyager fans, which is really great. But then there's some other moments too. Like Charlotte says, I really love the way Tendi stands up for herself against Mariner stereotyping Orions, and Mariner actually learns from it. That, Larry, felt like a very Star Trek moment. And it's
squeezed in amongst all the ribald reverie there. Yeah.
Right.
All the goodness. Yeah.
And
Which is what, and Lower Decks, that's what Lower Decks does. And I think that's what got so many fans watching it intrinsically, whether they they realize it on the surface. People that waded into this thinking it was just going to be a yuck fest. And maybe it took a while to really get there, or for you to be able to adjust to the speed. I said once, it's watching Lower Decks cold is a lot like going to see a Shakespeare production. It takes you, no matter how much of a student you are, it takes you 5 or 10 minutes. At first you're going, oh my God, the Shakespearean English, the Elizabethan cadence and wordplay and all that. But after 5 or 10 minutes, your ears accommodated and you're adjusted to it, and and then you don't remember having those kind of concerns past the first few minutes. And that's the way the manic pace of Lower Decks is, and the comedy. After a while, that's just the noise that settles down. It's just the storytelling, and you can focus on things like the characters and all that. And I think that's shocked people and surprised people.
Yes.
So that by the time you got here, you were like, oh my God, she's a sick puppy. And then you go, and she's probably going to be a lot better. And at the end when she's running around, oh, sorry, Mom, gee, fist bump, and oh, hey, we'll see you later, Boimler, and oh, good luck. It's like, you think about her gritchy, bitchy side, but then you remember all the times she stuck up for him. She pulled some of those goofy, with the Ferengi bit. I mean, she would go to elaborate means to support Boimler because she really liked him. and but it's like Enemy Within. It's the stark, good and bad or whatever. It's the starkness of before and after that brings it out. But if you really start thinking about it all through the series, she had her wonderful heart of gold side that would come out all the time. It was almost comical the way there at the end she was sunshine and, lollipops there the whole ending. But it wasn't my point. It wasn't inconsistent. It was there all the time, but it just shows what happens in therapy, right? It's like we're my other shirt. We're texture, not trivia. We're many things, and we go against our own grain at times. And this was a therapeutic moment where she'd had a course correction, but it wasn't made up out of whole cloth.
No. Yes.
It rang through at the end. It was. I mean, at first you're kind of going, well, she's overdoing it a little bit, but she's overreacting from where she's been. But when you think about it, none of that rang false. You saw all those aspects of her all through the series.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This relationship between mother and daughter, which I would say this is also a newer contribution too of Lower Decks. We haven't seen the mother-daughter. Well, no, we have with Troy. But it's really nice to see this mother-daughter relationship with both Starfleet officers. Kind of this feels very new and fresh to me, and so it's been fleshed out over the course of the season. And so, what is going on between the two of them, and Mariner learning that her mom is protecting her the best way possible, and that Mariner also really struggles with some of these things, and that doesn't make her less of a good Starfleet officer. I think that's one of my favorite things about Lower Decks, and it's highlighted with Tendi. These are not fully actualized Starfleet officers. They are learning. They're figuring it out. They make mistakes. They make somewhat obvious mistakes in terms of like stereotyping Orions with Mariner or Tendi. I love that moment happens because not only does Tendi stand up for herself, but Mariner also learns, corrects herself, and is moving in a new way forward. Larry, what if we could have conversations like that? Like, hey, this thing that you said, like, this felt kind of stereotyped to me, and here's why. And I'd really appreciate it if you don't do that. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I did that. Wow, okay. I'm going to look out for that. I'm going to try not to do that again in the future.
Like you have a curriculum about life and respect or something?
Wouldn't
where
that
it's
be
all just an intellectual exercise? Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, right there, Lower Decks is showing us that we can have these conversations in an everyday way. It's kind of showing us this path forward, and it's showing us that you can grow. That like we don't, it doesn't have to be such a big thing. So I love that about this episode. Not only is it destigmatizing getting help and seeking help, and it's also normalizing how people might not want to be in therapy, and it's also normalizing there's many ways to deal with the anger you're going through, but it's also showing us in an everyday kind of matter of fact that even in the 24th century, even with Starfleet officers, they can be biased and vulnerable to stereotyping, and we can also learn and grow from that.
As you said all that, I was thinking, we've seen Freeman do it, we've seen Ransom do it, we saw Shax do it, we saw Dr. Tana do it. Yeah, all the leads, all the senior staff, the B team here on the show, but the A staff on the ship. It's kind of a comic thing, but it's funny when people go back and watch. Well, people talk about the original series now and some of the 60s isms, especially like with gender and women and the ladies man Kirk aspects, which is just the James Bond influence, and it's the machismo 60s. But I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying that's the thing. But even people who go back and watch like Golden Next Generation and see a moment now that's a little off-putting. And I don't mean first, second season. I mean like the heart of Next Generation, like fourth season, fifth season, and onward. And some things ring a little. It just reminds you where culture has come in 20, 30, 40 years, and that hopefully we are on an evolutionary path. I would love for something, even Star Trek. I would love for anything made 30 or 40 or 50 years ago to reveal something about its time, not to where it's a complete bunch of crap. It's garbage that you have to eject from your culture repertoire. But aside from historians learning about mistakes, but it's healthy to go back and watch older. Oh, I almost said the C word, content. It's helpful to go back and watch older Star Treks and see little bits like that kind of make you go, as long as they don't take away from the overall intent of the show. And yeah, and so having an animated series with this compressed manic pacing and storytelling and even joke telling, where everyone, we get away from the whole perfect humans thing, because even the perfect humans of Gene's pure first couple of seasons had some clinker moments. Yeah.
Yeah. I love.
Did I let you catch up in the chat?
Yeah, there's a lot of great comments here. I wanna get to. So Christoph says they didn't ban using real person's holograph duplicates after all that Reg and LaForge after what they did, and
haven't you ever heard of the first guarantee in the Federation Constitution? No, I just
it is it's completely allowed, right? Like I think where TNG falls with this, and this is where I don't think Star Trek has really fleshed out the rules around this. But if you look at TNG and DS9 episodes, I think where things land is what you do in the holodeck is your own business, but it is seen as being a bit not cool to duplicate.
Unseemly?
Yeah, to duplicate real people in the holodeck, although there's no rules against it. I think am I right, Larry?
Yeah, well, no, there's obviously no rules against it because it would wipe out more storytelling than having perfect humans. I'm sorry. almost got a spit take there.
I didn't expect you to go at that meta level. But I think this.
Well, I'm sorry. Have you been watching the show since the beginning?
I think what Christoph is raising here, and what you are raising here is the narrative limitations. But what I think what Christoph is raising here is this gets to the world that we live in now. I was just reading the other day, Anthony Bourdain, who died a few years ago. They just used AI created to simulate his voice to recreate his voice reading some words that he had written but never spoken before. Mm-hmm. So this type of technology...
We call those written words.
Right. That type of technology combined with deep fake technology, which is not perfect, and takes a long time and is not quite there, but is getting better and better. We're getting to the point where we can do some of the stuff that you see in this episode, and it brings up. Do
you mean better and better, or more and more sinister? What do you?
A little bit of both. I think the tech can be used for good and bad purposes.
Yes, Dr. Oppenheimer. Yes.
Yes. Speaking of references, the deep cuts there. I guess that's not that big of a deep.
You'd better know about A-bombs, Sonny. You'd better know about atomic bombs. Okay.
But one of my cousins sent me this app where you can animate photos of old photos.
I've seen that advertised. Yes.
Yeah. And so she sent me a photo of our great grandparent that was now animated, and it looked like a Harry Potter-esque painting, with this moving image. Mm-hmm. And it was both very moving to see someone's face who I knew through photos but had never seen move.
Right.
Move. At the same time, it was very unnerving because this is not him. Yeah, it's a simulation. So I think, Christoph, this is bringing up real world questions that we're going to have to grapple with, and I don't know if we are ever going to be able to ban this.
We're having a hard enough time right now with fake news, right? And just competing narratives and storylines and things that are completely factual and things that don't have a shred of fact to them, and people don't care. what's that? What was it? Mark Twain that said a lie can circle the world 10 times before the truth can even get
Right.
its shoes on. Something
Which
like
which there's empirical evidence around that now. Misinformation travels faster on Twitter than actual news,
that. Hmm.
than real news. Um, we got an update from Christoph who says, regarding holographs, I hope I'd lived to see a holographic Freddie Mercury rocking Wembley Stadium again. And I think that's part of this too. Is like there's
Right.
what Larry, if you could go and witness a historical moment recreated in the holodeck, wouldn't you want to do that? Like, I would
Oh,
love to see the Beatles in concert for the last time again. You
right.
know, it's just
Well, but isn't that, see, that's okay, this is going to sound sappy, but that's the goodness
let's
of
go sappy.
humanity. That's the goodness of humanity looking at the upside of anything. I mean, look, remember in the 30s, they were talking about atomic power and they were talking about, it was in Scientific American, it was in the speculatives, but once it became theoretical, the same way space travel did by the 40s and 50s, but it wasn't there yet.
Mm.
But by the time, when you got to that point, people are talking about, oh, powering the world and we won't have, coal burning, even then talking about, polluting technologies, and we could, the poor and the rich countries can all benefit from this power, and everyone's looking at the optimistic side, not, oh, and we can also blow the world up 82 times over, or fast forward. I do this all the time. I compare the atomic power slash bomb to social media. At the beginning of Facebook, it was all about, oh, look, there's my grandma in Idaho, and here's my classmates that I went to school with, and we've all reconnected, and oh, look, we can plan our family reunion. We can plan our bowling tournament at Star Trek Vegas at the Rio. I mean, it was, everybody naturally goes to the and the holodeck was the same way. Look at the original holodeck bits. Oh, look, we can use these holographic environments for training. The first time you see it is Wesley going into Data's pretty stream in the forest routine when he's whistling. But then the first time you see it for a purpose, it's Tasha doing the Aikido training, right? I know it's in Code of Honor, but still, it happened. And I don't know, but I remember at the time in 87, 88, there were some people that, I didn't think about it this way, but then I'm a doof. But there were some people that immediately went to, wait a minute, you can do anything in a holodeck and it's private? I mean, I remember fans going, wait, how would anybody ever leave there? And you're like, because
Right.
they're Starfleet. It's the 21st century and
Right.
they're better than that. They have things to do. They have purpose. And it's like, I don't care. What are you going to do when somebody like won't leave the holodeck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or worse, like, so, or people's minds would go. I remember the first time somebody just blew me away. The first time they said, okay, so if you have sex in the holodeck with a holographic person and they go away, does the
Yeah.
remain?
We know where you're headed.
Yeah. Which they got into, and she's in there cleaning up whatever the holodeck remains.
The
But
bio waste.
it's like, wow, your mind goes there right off the bat, because I guess it did. But it illustrates my point that when Gene is sitting down going, we need a holographic simulator to help people overcome their homesickness for Earth or their home planet. And by the time it's finally, and it can be training and all of this. And then by the time it's been out once or twice, we've got Dixon Hill and it goes wrong. And then we've got all these, it becomes quickly. People see the optimistic side of a new breakthrough technology, even without realizing somewhere there are people considering the dark side.
Yeah, and I mean, this gets to the unintended consequences of new
Yes,
technology.
yeah,
The
yes.
team that created the like button on Facebook, they believed that they would be spreading positivity throughout the world by creating this. They did not realize that there would be a generation of kids that grow up doing anything they
Traumatized
can.
from not being popular enough.
Right,
Yeah.
and doing everything they can to get those likes and to try to engineer more ways of getting likes, and that this might be triggering a
Or
lot
crashing
of
when they can't.
yeah. So we can't really predict how these new technologies play out, and the discussion unfolding here. I mean, there's so many ways we can go in this discussion, and this is why I like Barclay as a character. Of course, there's going to be people struggling with their holodeck use, and Barclay's a great example of that. And we can get into questions of
Maybe we need a future topic: technology gone bad. or
Yeah, yeah,
technology
yeah.
gone,
No, that I can totally see
or
that.
technology's dark side or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's questions of fidelity. At what point is
I am great. You are great.
well, like when
M5, M5.
if
Yeah.
you can do anything in the holodeck with anyone at any time, and we can also create near perfect replications of people. Like, at what point would you be cheating on someone, and do rules of marriage and all of that kind of stuff change, and
Well,
with this
now
whole
you're into Oops, Leah Brahms, Geordie territory
right,
there.
right.
Yeah.
But the other thing that comes up here, I saved this comment. There's issues of data privacy here that I think are. Yeah, Jamal says here. I think the issue gets into the murky areas where you modify the people without that you recreate without their permission. And I think there was another comment, if I can find it. No, I can't. I can't find it. But the issue here that Jamal brings up is of data privacy, and this is one of the things that is being hotly debated right now with Silicon Valley and with the regulation that has been proposed of Silicon Valley. Who owns your data? Who owns your face? And how much of our personal data are we giving away? And what can people do with that data? What rights do we have to our likeness? And does that change if you're a public figure? Does it change if you're an everyday person? um, you in the Starfleet future, you have to capture someone's appearance some way. We see this with Voyager when the Doctor is taking these holographic images of people to recreate them in the holodeck. You have to capture someone's likeness to recreate their likeness. And the same is kind of true for deep fake technology. You need a lot of images and a lot of video of people to recreate them. Larry, you and I have been giving out our appearance through these episodes. People can, if they had the time and money and desire, they could take our likeness, our sound, and our voice and recreate bad deep fake versions of us.
Us doing anything. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Bad quality or bad in intention.
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But is
Yeah.
that something we're consenting to when we're making these videos? No, and that kind of gets into this weird area
We need a
that
new legal line at the end.
yeah, yeah. I think we're gonna have a lot of court cases that are gonna play out this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like, are we consenting to that? You know, I don't.
Are
There's
we
no
still going to
reason-
let 70 and 80-year-old Supreme Court justices decide these things?
That's the other issue.
'Cause these 70 and 80-year-old Congress people are not doing a good job of legislating it. But then there's a whole other can of worms around other things too. But no, that's one division. When you see a congressional hearing and the tech heads come in, the tech giant people come in, the billionaires or not, whatever they are, and you just see, especially the senators fumbling around to talk to them about things. It's kind of like, this is why this has evolved. No, I'm not being ageist here at all. I'm just saying we've got a gap here between you talk about too big to fail. This is too techie to fail, or too techie to be questioned, and that's an issue. You've got the leadership in the community running away with their incredible invention. And there's a huge gap between that and the ability to be regulated and to be intelligently questioned by lay people in their own daily choices, and by the people who should be charged with doing the oversight and the regulation. And it's a vacuum that we need to eventually gets closed up. You just hope it gets closed up before there's too much damage done.
Yeah, I mean, the way
We've had 10 years now. We've gone from the grandma and reunion stage to the we can skew 20% of what the country thinks.
it's and yeah, no, now you're also getting to some of the nefarious areas of this.
Nefarious, exactly. Yes.
There is this culture of revenge porn of if you've been broken up with someone,
brought down a congresswoman in California.
Yeah, releasing this kind of stuff on the internet, and there's and you can, if you have enough footage of people, you can create these deep fake lewd images of people, of videos of people, and kind of release that out there. And you're talking about misinformation and disinformation that can be easily created, and it's very hard to identify if something's real. And as you reference that Mark Twain quote, sometimes even if it's fake and it's corrected or removed, the damage has sort of been done there. So this is kind of a big challenge we're going to have, is what is real? How do we figure that out? How do we deal with this kind of stuff? It's the tools to create the things that appear to be real but might not be, and then easily share them with the world. It's just so easy to do that now. It's almost like everyone can have their own personal holodeck in a way. So it's, yeah. Larry, something I've wondered about this is going in a different direction, but watching this episode, I was kind of wondering,
Not that.
Star Trek has gone down the holodeck direction, and much less the virtual reality direction. I gotta imagine it would be a lot cheaper, and I mean cheaper. It's the 24th century. The economics of the future are a little bit different, but it would be so much easier for every person to have a high quality VR setup combined with a tactile suit that gives you feedback and all the sensory stuff than it would just to have a big holodeck on the ship. Like I feel like that would be an easier thing for everyone to have.
Yeah, but it's a lot more fun to watch people in a holodeck than to watch them in a.
That's true. Yeah.
Do you remember the interface? The first time the episode interface went by and Geordi is using it to contact his mom and his dad. I mean, it became a weird thing. But I just remember thinking, well, this is sure clunky. I kept trying to say, I know this episode's trying to say something about the future, but it sure is hard to watch it. I mean, it's like, this is very clunky. And within a few years, all the terms that seem so, futuristic and crazy in 1993 were, oh yeah, interface. We say interface all the time now, is the intersection of, me and something I'm encountering. But I just, yes, it makes it's like same thing. It was like, please, I know CGI is great, but give me people with models on a shooting stand anytime. It's so much more cool than it is watching people sitting at their computers making CG digital pictures. It's boring. I want that. I want the ship model I can touch, like the Phoenix.
I'm with you on that. Going in a slightly different direction, Cairo asked a question that is very much in keeping with our show, so I want to answer his question. Cairo asked, how much is it true in a military therapist setting, though, that the counselor cannot tell the captain what a low-rank officer said to them? So, Cairo, this is a really great question. I haven't served in the military.
We have violence and shootings and things at our military bases, so apparently not enough.
Yeah, well, so we don't. I think we can definitely do more to support our veterans and those serving in the armed forces. That is true. What I'll say here, I haven't served in military mental health settings, but I have colleagues and friends who do, and it is a part of our training too, and our ethics training, to think through what happens in these scenarios. So, Cairo, to answer your question, it really comes down to who is the client. So, if I am working in civilian life and someone comes to me seeking treatment, they are my client. But if I'm working in the judicial system, the justice system, and the court is appointing me to be someone's therapist, the client is actually the court oftentimes in that situation. I am serving the court in helping this individual. If I'm working in a military type of setting, then the client is the military and not actually the individual I'm working with. So the questions become, who is the client? Who am I serving? A more simple example of this is if I'm working with a family and I'm a family therapist, the client is the family, not one individual person. So if someone says, let's say one person doesn't show up to family therapy that week, and the people who are there share a secret with me, and they're like, don't tell Bob who's not here. That's not how it works. The client is the family, and this was said in this context, so I need to be able to talk about this openly with the family. So getting back to your question, Cairo, if the military is the client here, there are different standards of confidentiality there. And usually what happens is not that I will tell the commanding officer everything that was told in the session with me. That's not how it works. But how it does work is if there are concerns that were raised to me about this person's ability to serve in this larger structure and to advance the mission that that might be at play, those concerns I would likely raise with the commanding officer. If there are questions of the person's ability to carry out their duty, that would probably be raised, but not necessarily the details of what is being shared week to week. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah. And it occurred to me too, the other part of this equation is even if the counselor shares the information, what does the superior do?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what it is, they might totally, ignore it. They might bury it. They might, turn their back, avert their gaze, and not do anything with it, even though the counselors, forwarded the information. So,
yeah.
He's a great soldier. I'm really sorry if he's beating his wife, but he's a great soldier, and I'm not going to interrupt his career. I mean, that's,
Hopefully that would not be what happens. Charlotte says, now that Boimler's on the Titan, maybe Troy can teach him plexing. That boy needs to chill. I hope we get to see a little bit of Boimler getting some help there.
Well, we'll know if Mike is ever watching these shows later. If like the third episode opens with Boimler in Troy's office and she's teaching him to plex, and we'll go, "You've been watching life support." A year ago when they were working on it. Yeah.
Scott also mentioned that not only were there lens flares, but there's film grain,
Yes.
grain, and the aspect ratio changed as well.
I keep reading to notice that, but yes. I mean, to note that, but yes.
Yeah, and to reference that starship approach scene, to follow up on that, Charlotte said, to clarify, when I laugh at that scene in the motion picture, it's more of a nervous, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous laugh, not that, oh my gosh, this is hilarious laugh like that scene in the lower decks. Context is important here, Larry. Seeing the Enterprise refit for the first time, the pacing of the motion picture. I mean, there's the whole
So the whole movie is paced slower to begin with.
Yeah, there's the whole prologue, right? Of just it's not called prologue. What is the whole musical interlude?
It's an old school overture movie. Right. With an overture score.
Yeah.
It was Robert Wise wanted an overture at the beginning.
Yeah, which is very much like a lot of the other films that he had done. Did The Sound of Music have an opening overture?
I think it did. I think West Side Story too.
Yeah.
But
So
especially musicals, like a stage musical would have an overture. Except motion picture isn't a musical. The motion picture
far from it
is many things, but it is not a musical.
Larry, now I want some kind of improv troupe to do Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the musical. I think that would be.
Okay,
we're on approach to the Enterprise. I can't wait to swing around and see the ship.
I started to say
it's back. The probe has returned. It's come back. It's learned. It has to share. I think it would just.
I had no idea you were such a musy. If that's not the term for musical fan, then I've just made it up. I'm just trying to think of. And that's V for feature. That stands for very, very much trouble, and I just can't go that. What I was trying to say was, number one, after 55 years of Star Trek, and after 79, 89, 99, 09, after 40-something years of the motion picture, if someone somewhere in some Berg's little mini-con, if somebody hasn't done a musical version of the motion picture, even as a 5-minute sketch, I would be shocked, number one. But yeah, we would totally see that. I'm surprised that Wrath of Khan hasn't been made into some, over the top opera.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that. I'm just there's a scene in the motion picture where it just seems like it's Kirk and Sulu going back and forth about viewer ahead, viewer astern. I think that would be a great number. Viewer ahead, viewer astern, looking forward, looking back. We're moving forward, keeping an eye on what's coming, but what's gone to. I think it
full
would.
back on viewer lingua code. Yeah, yeah.
Kolinar, Kolinar. Do I go through with Kolinar, Kolinar?
It's your idea, Jim. Your idea, Jim. Your idea, Jim. Yeah.
My name is Bones. I grew a beard. I'm really angry. Don't bring me back on the ship.
Where did the disco go? Okay.
I'm Kirk, an admiral, but I want to be captain. Oh my gosh, Larry. Hard pivot here to what Charlotte said, and not Charlotte, Melanie. Melanie said, client confidentially.
Please.
Therapists are required to report anyone who speaks of suicide or homicide. Also, teachers, etc., are mandated reporters. They must require any problems regarding a child's safety. I'm just going to modify that, Melanie. We're not required to report anyone who speaks of suicide or homicide. Depending on the state law, therapists are mandated reporters for things like child abuse and things like that. And depending on the state law, if someone reports that they are going to hurt themselves or they are going to hurt someone else, that is a situation where they might be required to break confidentiality to promote safety. But often what happens is people might be struggling with suicidal thoughts. That doesn't mean that they automatically get reported. It means we work together to help that person. But if that grows to a place where they are saying that I'm going to do this tonight, where there's a clear and imminent threat, that's a situation where confidentiality can be broken. The other situation are emergency situations. So like when I worked in psychiatric ER, rules of confidentiality are very different when there's an imminent crisis. When there's a crisis point, there's difference there.
We had such a great chat through all this.
Cairo says, isn't the Wrath of Khan just a cheap knockoff of the legendary Klingon opera Wrath of Duras?
I keep trying to take Sword and Magic Helmet and Trek-eyes it. Yeah.
Oh,
which is the Bugs Bunny parody of What's Opera. Yeah.
Jamal says the Khan yell would be a literal high note in that musical, Larry, which I love that.
You're going to have to come down here, Khan. You're going to have to come down here. You're going to have to come down here, Khan. You're going to have to come down here. Come for me. Come for me. No, I've done much more than that. I have marooned you in space. I have hurt you. I have hurt you. Gone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Gone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just want to, he's doing all that on his own, and everybody else is there in the bowl with it. What's like McCoy and Savick all doing? They're back there doing a little like shuffle ball step behind him. I don't know.
Well, and there would be like a
apples for everyone. Apples for everyone.
There'd be a Les Mis type of number for Spock where he would be, remember me. Well, now I'm doing Coco, but he'd be like, remember who I am. Do not forget the life I have lived. I have lived long and prospered. Remember. It just writes itself, Larry. This is
apparently so.
Hours are minutes and minutes are hours. Hours are minutes and minutes are hours. It's just going to be so good.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
He's never left us if we keep him in our hearts. Yeah.
Forgotten friends. The friends we have lost, forgotten friends. Wait, no, not forgotten friends. Cheers to.
Departed? No. Now you've messed me up. I can't. I back off. Somebody in chat will pop up with it if I can catch up.
What does he say?
We should point out, by the way, we didn't do this as a stunt to sell them, but Lower Decks is, the DVD Blu-rays are out, but Lower Decks is back. I keep saying the Thursday of Vegas, the 12th or 14th. I can never.
Friends.
Absent friends. What did I say? Absentee? No, I didn't.
I think I said lost, forgot. I said forgotten friends, which is
forgotten
not
friends.
Absent friends. Thank you, Phil. Thanth you, Scott.
Anyway, somebody was just mentioning they can't wait for season 2. Season 2 begins August. 12th, 14th, something. The second Thursday of August is when Lower Decks is back, which is only 2 or 3 weeks away. So.
Oh man, Rebecca's talking about in a put on your Sunday clothes, hello Dolly type of thing. I could totally put on your maroon uniform. We've got a lot of space to explore. So many quadrants and nebulas out there. We've got our new refitted Enterprise. We'll go to warp and fire phasers and sensors and probes and more. I could totally see that happening. Thank you for that lovely inspiration, Rebecca. Larry, have we lost every viewer possible due to...
Yes, we have. Because my mind was actually going into the shuttle with the fringe on top, so we're totally not going to...
Yes. So Lower Decks is coming back in a month. I hope it's a global release of a month.
I know our friends overseas are all worrying and fretting about there hasn't been a formal announcement about the status of it yet. Yeah. Hopefully some of these things have gotten over the hump of dealing with Paramount Plus changing the landscape, being global already or more global. Thank you, Melanie. I just saw August 12th. Does that mean I'm in the I think it was ahead of this topic.
Thank you,
anyway.
Jared. Jared says, listening to this, it's minutes are turning into hours. Thank you.
And I don't even have an Apple, so yes.
I do want to say a little bit about mothers and daughters. Linda talked about Janeway and Seven were kind of a mother-daughter role, and then we got a lot of mentions of Keiko and Molly as well. Especially,
although I think we had a few more hours of screen time of Seven and Janeway than we'd had of
which
Keiko
is what
and
Charlotte said. You mean all 5 minutes of screen time that Keiko and Molly had together,
aside from future Molly down the cave.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is yeah. I don't know if there's more. I think it's well said there, Charlotte. I wish we got more of Keiko and Molly. I wish we got a lot more of Keiko on DS9. There's actually a great episode of I mentioned this a long time ago, but All the Asians on Star Trek is a podcast that's attempting to interview all the Asian Americans who have appeared on Star Trek, and they had a great episode with. Is it
Jim Shimoda? Oh, no.
They had a great episode with Rosalind Chow. Is that her name?
Rosalind,
yes. Who played Keiko. So if anyone's interested in hearing her side of the experience, it's a great episode. And she talks about how she was offered a full-time role on DS9. And she decided against it. She wanted to just be a guest actor, not a full-time actor, and
free to go do other things.
And free to go, yeah. So she kind of talks about that, and so it could have been a very different world had we had her as a full-time, maybe.
Well, the O'Brien Bashir dynamic was not part of the original Bible. It evolved.
Yep.
From what they got from the actors, and if she had been part of the formula there, that whole thing, that triangle, would have for sure evolved in a completely different way, and it might have even been a triangle.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So let me make sure I got all the other. Oh, and then Zahir said, Oh my gosh, Sam Rutherford is voiced by the actor who plays Casey in the Loki series, which is
I'm
always.
sorry, that's Loki.
What's that, Larry?
It's pronounced Loki.
What did I say?
You said Loki. I just wanted to prove to there was this joke I'd always said Loki because I was thinking
Loki?
Lodi. Like I really watch these superhero shows where people run around in capes. That's why that was a moment I loved. When she comes out the turbo
capes.
lift and the cape is caught in the
Yeah.
door, I was just dying laughing because that's the way I am about superheroes versus Star Trek and sci-fi. It's like, oh, the cape people, and no one else has one just like mine. Anyway, I had been saying Loki for age. Not that I talk about Loki, but it came up a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned it, and everybody was hooting at me in my chat on Tuesdays Live. It's low key, and then I was saying low key. Well,
Like
why not
low
just say
key?
that low key? Like why they call Loki low key because that's ironic because he's not low key, and then finally said no, it's low key, same emphasis. And you just said it effortlessly, like you actually pay attention all these years. So I just was wanting to point that out.
Yeah.
I did notice.
A few more.
I totally blew the point out of the water. I'm sorry, but okay.
No, it's all good. Scott is asking, is there a joke I'm not getting in that therapist being a bird? I've always wondered. I don't think so, Scott. I think it's just Star Trek Lower Decks being able to create any alien it wants without worrying about a makeup budget. And it's also kind of Discovery,
like the original animated series,
like the original animated, yeah. And I think this is something that Star Trek Discovery has tried as well, is to have a lot more non-humanoid type of species on display, and I think it's just that.
Or just going back and pulling some out of the background from past shows that were one-offs.
Yeah.
Or less than one-offs that never got. They were background aliens or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more to it than that. I think they.
You don't think there's some? I mean, I said it. You don't think there's something about being a bird brain?
A bird brain. That's funny. That's
another one on my list of things for Mike.
That's funny. We should ask Mike. We should have him on this.
I don't have to go through.
Speaking of Molly, Andrew asks, I'd like to hear Dr. Ellie's views on the future Molly episode. That episode where, I think the episode, Andrew, you're talking about is, I forget.
Times Children?
Yeah.
No. Times Children is the Gaia planet. Times Orphan?
I think Times Orphan might be right.
Yeah.
But it's the episode where Molly sort of falls into this time thing, and it spends like 20 years.
She's in a time cave.
Yeah, time cave. And sort of spends 20 years alone on this planet with no other humans or no other.
Grows up feral.
Yeah. And so what I think is cool about that episode is someone who would live alone definitely would not be socialized in the way that other humans are, and would likely adapt to living on that world. And so their language skills and communication skills probably would not be as well developed, but you see a lot of her other survival skills really are. And the suspicion at which she has towards seeing her mother and father, a lot of the difficulty there, I think it kind of plays out pretty well, and it kind of maps onto both the traumatic experience that would be, as well as some of the ways that humans can adapt and be flexible to survive different circumstances. So
you're saying more Tarzan than Mowgli?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I guess we can say that. A few other comments that I sort of flagged for us to talk about. Charlotte said Paris created a holographic version of Tuvok's wife to get him through Ponfar, which, yeah, totally. Like on a long space mission, you would likely see those kind of scenarios play
But
out.
did it ultimately accomplish its goal?
I think so, didn't it?
I thought it did kind of ish, but it wasn't totally satisfying.
Well, but then he did some meditation and Vulcan meditation. I think it.
Good. Scott had some Vulcan candles laying around, and yeah.
Oh my god! And JR also said Star Trek is one of the coolest franchises that can
That's where
continuously.
I am. Yes.
Oh, yeah, nice. Continually reference itself on the lower decks. It's like the crew actually reads and watches Starfleet news that talk about other crews' missions. I like that about lower decks that they are referencing. The only thing, Larry, is I wish they would reference more than the Enterprise, and I wish it
Well,
was.
see, I did a Tuesdays Live on this. I figured I had a really clever title that I can't remember now, but basically it was like, it's a case of using the universe and texture, not trivia. It's not that it's, oh look, they're only talking about the shows that the series that were a series that we know, but in the universe that pumps up exactly how vaulted Picard's crew is, which actually makes the events of Picard easier to swallow. The fact that he was at this pinnacle, not just because he had his own show. And in the original series, I remember thinking, well, can we watch what's happening on the other starships? It's like there's a whole world out there beyond this one. But it really, all that does is point out how they didn't just have good agents, that these were the ships that were worth telling stories about. And there was something with that name Enterprise and other names of ships too in other situations, the Defiant in the war and Janeway and Voyager and the Delta Quadrant, but that the fact that the little lower decker bunch idolizes, and they know the details of people's lives, Kirk's life and Picard's and Spock's and Riker's, that shows, that it's not just the fact that was a TV show. It shows in the universe those were big people.
Yeah.
So it's like at first it's like, this rings hollow, but it's just like, no, stop and think about what does this imply?
Yeah.
So I think it's hysterical then.
Jesse says exactly that.
And the fact that they're interfacing with the Rikers now on the
yeah. Jesse says, well, the Enterprise D was the flagship. They are celebrities, which, yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Jamal said, Larry is low-key agitated by Loki. I agree with you, Jamal. Charlotte, a few people asked about this. Charlotte said, I just want to know what he meant by you're being a pineapple. Like, how is one acting like a pineapple? I think they're being prickly. So there's two things about pineapple. Before you cut it and open it, it does have those kind of branches up top, and it can be a little bit prickly.
Yeah, the points on the outside, yeah.
But the other thing about pineapple, too, is it's sort of...
it can be baked upside down?
Well, you can. But it is very acidic, and if you have too much of it, it will very much sting your mouth. So I think that pineapple can be very sweet. It can also be a bit thorny. It can also be a little stingy. So too much pineapple can be maybe a bad thing.
Oh, and here all this time I thought it was just one of the the comedy funny words like kangaroo or gesundheit.
I mean, this is the thing about lower decks. At first appearance, you see this, and then you dig deeper. Texture, not trivia, my friend.
Okay.
Maybe you've heard that one.
Maybe I've heard that one.
Oh my gosh. And then Charlotte says pineapple is also Malcolm Reed's favorite food. So there you go. Well, Larry, it is that time of day.
The avianoid counselor is well aware of 200-year-old first engineer of the first Warp 5 ship's favorite fruit. They just worship these people. They worship those people. Okay.
Well, folks, it is that time of show. We would love to hear more about you and what you think we should talk about next week. Things are sort of wide open for us. We can go in any direction. We do have new Star Trek coming out soon. In about a month, less than a month, we have new Lower Decks coming out soon. So we'll probably get back to our themes inspired by the new episodes that don't spoil the new episodes. Larry and I really love doing that. But until we get there, let us know in the comments, what do you want us to tackle?
Yes.
What do you want us to talk about?
And I keep threatening to do this. I really will. Go, if you have not already, go please and like and join our Facebook page for Life Support Live. And I promise we'll get one up. We will put up a poll, just take some random ideas for themes coming up. I threw out technology's dark side or something already. So there's one.
Yeah.
We keep at least 2 or 3 ideas bubble up in the chat every week. Now that we're back doing this every week, We still have to figure out what to do over Vegas weekend. But other than that, I think we're pretty much back on our week-to-week scheduling.
Yeah, hopefully we appreciate your patience.
Yes.
With us. Charlotte says, I still want to see anger management for Klingons. Did we ever do anger manage? I think we did anger once.
Surely we did. We have to update our database, but I think we should do anger management for Tellarites. Oh, wait, there's not enough source material. Okay.
Larry, until next time, where can people find more Trekland this week?
Well, all the normal places like Trekland, Larry Nemecek Live, LarryNemecek.com, everything. Tuesdays Live, I mentioned earlier, is on Tuesdays at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. Across pond, you can watch it at 9 UK and 10 Central European. Come on over. I'm gonna do some box openings of some of the other goodies we've got in the store next week, and also talk about the panel subject, which is coming up next weekend. This is a one-off event. Is the virtual Comic-Con at home, the San Diego Comic-Con, which we're missing for the second year in a row thanks to COVID. But they've got virtual panels, and yes, there's a big Star Trek talking about Lower Decks, and the new Prodigy series. The official one from Paramount Plus is at 10 a.m. Pacific, so 1 Eastern. But later at 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, is the panel that I'm co-hosting or moderating with a bunch of real-life space lawyers who are all sci-fi nerds. And we're comparing sci-fi law to space law. And it was a real thrill to do something same but different. Yeah. And they talk about what's going on in the real world with treaties and resources and the competitions among nations and all that kind of thing. But they're all Star Trek and Star Wars and the Expanse nerds. And we had a really great time. So look for that at 6 o'clock. I'm gonna have it on my website, LarryNemecek.com will have a link. But there's a whole range of the whole program for Comic-Con is at their site.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad you're doing all that programming.
And I'll say real quick, if anybody's going to Vegas, I know it's a weird year and we're feeling our way, but we're keeping open the one-day tour to Valley of Fire. If you go to geeknationtours.com, my friend Terrace, that's still available. We haven't made the tour yet, so we're looking to see last-minute folks help us get over the top with that. But I want to throw that out there, too, coming up.
Awesome. I've been really busy with the day job, so I haven't been as productive on my efforts, but I do have a new episode of The Psych Show coming out soon on intrusive thoughts, so stay tuned for that. And other than that, it's just The Psych Show on YouTube, and I am at Ali Matu across social media. We had a question from Linda. I think it was Linda who asked, are you in Life Support Live from Vegas? I'm not going to Vegas, so we're not doing it live. We're doing it live. So we'll probably be taking a break that week as Larry will be traveling. So we won't do that live, but, we will...
That week is like Tuesday to Monday for me.
Yeah. We'll do something, and
maybe Jared can have a Zoom meetup on Saturday again.
Yeah. That would be lovely. Speaking of Jared and Scott, thank you, Jared and Scott, for moderating. Thank you, Jared, for hosting the Zoom. Thank you, Scott, for editing these episodes for the podcast. Folks, we will be back next week with a new episode of Life Support Live. Who knows what we'll be talking about? It's the undiscovered country, the future. Until then,
it's in the cards. Yes.
Live long and prosper, folks.
Hey, everybody.